Hey guys, Constance here from Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So, I just brewed a fresh pot of coffee, and so I poured myself a mug and came out here onto the porch. So, last week I posted on Instagram and on Facebook. I posted like a little meme sort of photo, and it said Q&A, and I offered up the opportunity to ask me questions and have them answered here on video. And I got a bunch of questions to be answered. I actually think I may have more than what I'll be able to do in one video. So maybe I can start doing this, I don't know, on a quarterly basis or something like that. Now, a couple of the questions are actually ones that will take a bit more time to respond to, and so I will actually do dedicated videos to cover those particular topics. So I'm going to go through these and answer some questions. Alright, number one, would you consider doing more videos about your crochet projects, and what is your favorite TV shows? That's a hard one, because when it comes to crochet, I do enjoy crocheting, and that is something I will often do during the cooler temperatures. I don't do a ton of projects because I'm not that fast at it, but I enjoy doing it. I find it very relaxing. I will often make scarves or blankets, or I have made a couple different sets of like fingerless gloves for my mother-in-law. She goes through dialysis a couple times every week, and going through that process she gets very cold, and so I made fingerless gloves for her. They go all the way up to her elbow. So I don't do a ton of projects. I mean, I can share what I am doing as I do them, but I definitely don't feel proficient enough to do like tutorials or anything like that. I'm very much maybe a step above novice when it comes to crocheting. I was taught the very, very basics many years ago as a newlywed, and I shared a story about Miss Margaret, the lady who told me, and I will put a link to that story down below. And I never really did anything with it after that for a really long time. And then just in the last couple years I've kind of picked it up, and I've been teaching myself different stitches and things like that. So I can share more about them, but yeah, I'm definitely not up to doing tutorials. Alright, and then the other part of that question is, what are your favorite TV shows? You know, I used to watch a lot of TV, and over time I just started watching less and less and less of it. And some of the last shows that I watched were The Walking Dead, which, yes, I've been a huge Walking Dead fan since it started. That was one of those shows. It's like the only show I would ever watch the night it was actually on, and actually have to sit through the commercials, because I loved that show, and I loved the spin-off Fear the Walking Dead. So I watched that show. I loved shows like Hometown and Fixer Upper, Love It or List It. I liked those sorts of shows, but I just don't watch much TV anymore. I don't have the time, and to be honest, I don't find it very entertaining, fulfilling, nourishing. I am a big multitasker, and so I will watch things while I'm doing things. For instance, the other day when I was juicing that giant watermelon, I had my iPad set up, and I was catching up on that 1870s Homestead, and I watched several episodes of that channel, that show. I really watch more YouTube than I do anything else, and I like spending my time with things that I enjoy and people I find to be authentic. I'll just leave it at that. Next question. What are your plans on an apiary, and will you jar your own honey in time? Yes. So the plan was this year I was going to add bees to the homestead, and I've actually begun purchasing the items that I needed. However, the opportunity to bring goats to the homestead presented itself, and that just kind of shifted the order of the list. So the bees were going to be this year and then the goats next year, but now we have the goats, and so the bees kind of got pushed to the side. The plan for them is right out here in the front garden. At the far end there is an open space inside the fence, and it is the perfect spot to set up bees, and so that is where I plan to put them. It is still in the works. I'm slowly purchasing all of the supplies that I need so that I'm ready. Actually had a little bit of a hitch with one of the items that I ordered, my bee suit. I ordered it, I tracked it. It was coming from another country. I thought it was coming from Ireland, but it was not. Tracked it all the way to Nashville, I think it was, and it stopped. And it sat there, and it sat there, and it sat there, and sat there. And then DHL labeled it as destroyed with permission. Yeah. That has yet to be resolved. And it looks like I am out the money for that very expensive bee suit that I purchased. So when we eventually get everything, I will be able to add the bees. But yes, honey is definitely on the agenda. I really want to have my own honey from my farm. That is my dream. Will you do some videos of caring for your chickens? Food care, what you look for health-wise, security. I have done quite a few videos about taking care of the chickens, but I don't think I've really done any recently, and I think maybe things have kind of shifted a little bit as well as how I do things. So that is definitely something I can add to my list, my to-do list for the channel. Kind of give an updated, here's how we're doing things with the chickens, and stuff like that. So I will add that. Are you going to build your greenhouse this winter? Yes. Lord willing, that is the plan. I've been waiting for life to calm down, and I've been waiting for the cooler temperatures, and we are just about there. Oh, it is. I got a flannel shirt on today. That is my favorite. If you know me, you know blue jeans and flannel shirts are my favorite thing to wear. And so that weather is just about here. So yes, and as a matter of fact, our friend who came back during the whole shutdown, needed to get out of town, needed a break, and came and helped us work on the goat fencing, he cannot wait to come help build the greenhouse. He loves projects like that, and he grew up doing farm work and stuff, and so he cannot wait to come help us with that project. He brings it up continually. So yes, if all goes as planned, the greenhouse is the next big project. Okay, so how did you and Mr. Smith meet? How long married, and where have you lived? What states and countries? Now that particular question, or that series of questions, I am going to get Mr. Smith to sit down with me and we will film that together. So I will do a dedicated video all about that one. Okay. Have you ever made caramel apple pie jam? This is new to me. Made it for the first time today. Smells amazing. That sounds amazing. No, I have definitely not made caramel apple pie jam. I have made caramel apple pies. I have made caramel apple pies and caramel apple bread, but not caramel apple pie jam. I don't even know if I've seen a recipe for that. Now I am intrigued. So next question. I'm not sure if this is too personal. If so, I apologize. I like your devotionals. Did you grow up a Christian or did you become one as an adult? Well, I was kind of raised as a Christian. I was raised Catholic. Although we weren't devout churchgoers, I did grow up going to the catechism classes, which is sort of like the Catholic version of Sunday school. And I went through all of the process, the confirmation and all of that, but I never really felt like... Now, if you asked me back then if I believed in God, the answer would be yes, but I didn't have a prayer life, I didn't have a relationship with God, and so looking back, I would not say that I was actually a Christian, and there was a period in my life where I was definitely not a Christian. I would say I became a Christian in my 20s. We were living in Germany, and that was a life-changing time, and that is where I gave my life to the Lord, and I was baptized, and that is when I became a Christian. Prior to then, I probably would have called myself a Christian just because I thought that meant I was a good person, but I was not a believer, not really, and so I became a Christian when I think I was 25 years old. Since you love your coffee, what is your favorite coffee and how do you drink it? My favorite coffee is made by a coffee roaster called Bongo Java. They are based out of the Nashville, Tennessee area. And the one that I like in particular is called Mystic Brew. They have another one that's called Harvest Moon, which is also delicious. But Mystic Brew, that's my favorite one. I drink it every single day. And I just put a splash of organic half and half in it. No sugar, just half and half. Now it's a medium roast. It's very smooth and it's not bitter at all. One of the things that I struggled with when I started changing the way we ate around here and started moving towards more organic things was finding an organic coffee that I liked. I went through a lot of coffees that were just wretched. And I don't like bitter things. I don't like bitter anything. Doesn't matter if it's coffee or what it is. I'm not a bitter person. And I found a lot of the organic coffees that I was trying at first to be very bitter. And this one is definitely not. It's very smooth and velvety. What other things do you plan to add to your homestead? So the only things that I can think of off the top of my head are, of course, the bees, which I've mentioned, and then the greenhouse, which I've also mentioned. Now, as far as other additions, we do want to add more goats because we do want to have the ability to breed. I mean, the whole point of having the goats, while yes, they will help keep down things like the thistle and all that stuff, once I get all of the additional fencing areas for them. But the real purpose to me for having goats is for the dairy, and you're not going to get the dairy if you can't breed them. So I do want to add at least another doe or two, and then I would like to have my own buck so that we can breed them. So that will be a process to grow our herd, but those are, off the top of my head, those are the only things I can think of. I mean, there's always projects taking place, like more raised beds and stuff like that, but as far as additions, that's all I can think of. Okay, wondering if you have experience in making home brewed kombucha. No. I will be honest, I've tried kombucha a couple of times now, and I just don't like it. I think that goes back to what I said about not liking bitter things. I don't like bitter, and I have a problem with sour. And so as a matter of fact, I went to a festival last year. It was a coffee and tea festival, and there was a couple different businesses who had their own kombucha. Oh, I did not like it. And I've been told, oh, you just haven't had good kombucha. I don't know. And fermenting in general, I honestly do not have a lot of experience with. I did ferment some peppers last year that actually ended up as a disaster. I did all the right steps. I mean, I went through the process. I've got books about fermenting. It has just not worked out for me, and it has made me nervous about the process. I still have yet to master sourdough. So maybe if I can get a grip on sourdough, maybe I'll be more willing to adventure out into the other types of fermentation. Okay, so this is getting a little bit long, I think, so I will finish off with this question and then I will save the other ones for another video. Are you still able to do your volunteer work, i.e. photography? I know summer is especially busy for those that have gardens plus COVID, and I wondered if you've been able to keep up the volunteering happening during this time. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, when we purchased our property and started building our homestead, I began volunteering at the local animal shelter. When I started volunteering there, we had 2 dogs and 1 cat, and that quickly grew to 4 dogs and 4 cats. Until we lost China a couple months ago. So having done all of the photography that I do and the videography and things like that, I began volunteering there at the animal shelter. I would go, I would take photographs of all of the animals who were available for adoption. I would make these little video montages that I could post on social media, and they could post on their page to just help promote the animals. And when I started doing that, it significantly raised the adoption rate, which was fantastic, and that was my whole point of doing that. However, last year, around springtime, when the garden was kind of really kicking up, I found myself really struggling to be able to get to the animal shelter every week, and I have a tendency to overstretch myself, to be honest. I will often have way too many irons in the fire to keep up with, and I was really struggling with that one, and I felt so guilty about it because I didn't want to leave them in a lurch. I didn't want to not help the animals, and I was really struggling with it. And so one day I was praying about it. I'm like, Lord, I really want to be able to help them, but I just don't have the time to get there every week. You know, I really wish somebody could step up and help with that. The very next day, I had a lady reach out to me and said, hey, I want to start doing photography for the animal shelter. And so she has stepped in. She does photography, she does videos. They even launched a Friends Of type of group for the animal shelter, so they have done fundraisers and all sorts of stuff. So that just really worked out, and it took a little bit of the pressure off of me. I do miss it at times, you know, because I love the animals and all of that, but I know it is being taken care of, and if they ever need me, I'm sure they could reach out to me and say, hey, could you step in? But I think they're doing a great job of it. So that is all the questions I have time for today. I will save the rest of them for another video, and some of those other ones that are going to be a little bit more in depth, I will do dedicated videos about. So thank you to all of you who submitted questions for the Q&A, and I think maybe in the future I could do this kind of like on a quarterly basis or something like that. So this will be the autumn Q&A, and yeah, so this was fun. So thanks for hanging out here on the front porch with me and the coffee, and I will talk to you all next time.